Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your boy CIZZY live action from the Culture Talks podcast. You feel me? We back again. Kansas City, Missouri. The weather's improving. We ain't -8 like we were last week. So, joyful, happy, blessed. But we're also joyful, happy, and blessed because guess what? It's another week. And like I promise you guys, every single week, I'm going to come back with a fire guest. And we've done it again. We've done it again. And y'all like, yo, why you speaking so early, Collis? Like the episode hasn't even started. Look, I just know it's called confidence. With that being said, I'm gonna have our guest introduce himself and then we'll jump right in.
Pleasure to be here on the Culture Talks. My name is Armon Sadler from Englewood, New Jersey. What do? I'm a music journalist, multimedia journalist, I call myself. I don't limit myself to just music. Big music lover, lifelong music lover, big WWE wrestling lifelong fan, big into sports as well in general, mental health. I run my own podcast, Stay Busy with Armon Sadler. We release every Monday, 9 a.m. What else, man? I do a bunch of stuff. I'm sure it's going to come up. It's hard to keep up with everything that I do because I literally stay busy. That's literally my lifestyle. But it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to us having a really fun conversation. So
Hell
let's
yeah,
get to
bro.
it, man.
Hell yeah. I love that. I love somebody who stays busy. We ain't got time to be nonchalant sleeping around all day long. Now,
Yeah.
if it's required, for mental health purposes, of course, do what we need to do. But aside from that, we got to get to it.
Yeah.
So I want to double back, man. You say, let me just make sure I'm correct. Englewood, New Jersey. Is that what you said?
Englewood, New Jersey. Yeah.
Perfect.
Not to be confused with the Englewood in California. That's spelled with an I. Mine is spelled with an E. So
Okay.
ENGLWOOD. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, tell me about Englewood, New Jersey. What was it like growing up there? What's like the vibe? What's the demographics? What's the energy? What are the things that you enjoyed and appreciate about that area? Just talk about the early life of Armon.
Yeah, man. Englewood is definitely the suburbs. It's three miles long. I'm like a 15-minute drive from the George Washington Bridge. But it's a really chill town. My parents, as I've gotten older and spoken to them more about their path and what they wanted for us, they wanted to put me and my older brother, who's 4 years older than me, his name's Andre. They wanted to put us in an environment where we can thrive, we can attend good schools, we can play sports. We're not in a place that's dangerous or it's tempting to get into things that we didn't want to get into because they both had very unique upbringings. My mom was born in Haiti, moved here when she was 3, and she was one of 7. My dad is actually from California, from Oakland, and then he lived in San Francisco for a long time, and he had, I believe, his 3 siblings. But they both had very unique upbringings. My dad went to the Navy for a bit, played college football. My mom attended Barnard College, which is the Women's College of Columbia. And they both recognized, that there were certain things they wanted for themselves that they weren't able to get. And so they wanted to create, a better situation for us. And so they ended up in Englewood. And, I can say growing up and even looking back now as I'm 25, I never really felt any threats to my lifestyle. I never felt unsafe. Like I kind of just did what I had to do. And, my parents kept us very busy. So I was doing karate until I was like 6 years old. And then I transitioned to playing football, and I played basketball in the winter and played baseball in the spring. So I was always doing something. I was involved in the church very young. So I was in the church choir. I was a junior usher. I would do the Christmas plays and the Easter plays. And my parents tried to get us into acting and doing commercials. And, it's looking back, as I'm going to say a lot, it was really dope that they invested in us so much. They gave us a lot of opportunities to figure out what we were interested in really early on and then pursue that, with everything. But, the main thing was us getting the best education that we could, and knowing that, sports might not be forever. You can get injured. You might not be good enough to go professional, but, you got to be in the books and, take care of that. And that's going to carry you far. So they always had us in the best schools, even if, they couldn't necessarily afford it. And, I really, really appreciate that. But yeah, man, I had a really cool upbringing. I think my dad and I really bonded over music. Back in the day when streaming wasn't existing, we were listening to CDs, And so my dad would buy a lot of like bootleg mixtapes and be playing them in the car. So I would be listening to a lot of Mobb Deep, 50 Cent, Nas, Jay-Z, and then we would be listening to the radio as well. My mom would be playing a lot of gospel music in the car, and I didn't always want to hear that, so I'll be asking her to turn it off and put put this Bow Wow CD in, or put this Usher CD in, or put the radio on. But I do love gospel music now, and like I think I love that my parents are so different because I was able to bond with them over different things. And I like to consider myself a person with range. Like I'm not just a hip hop and R&B fan. I love gospel. I love pop. I like alternative music. I like rock music. And I'm not just a football fan. I love basketball. I love baseball. Like I said, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've watched WWE my whole life. And, I never necessarily felt like I was limited in what I was capable of doing. And that's something that I appreciate now and I carry into my life these days. So yeah, man, I wouldn't say I had the standard upbringing, but it was cool. Like I really have no complaints.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's funny, like every time I have a guest on from the East Coast, like, or that lives on the East Coast or that was born on the East Coast, one of their parents is always from either like Haiti, St. Thomas, or like Jamaica, or there's one other, or Barbados. They're all, or Trinidad. That's like the five. Like all of them, like it's like revolving. And I always find it interesting. Like I want to know because there's so much like island roots, like in New York, in New Jersey, and I wonder why. Like when that started. Like if there's any history, like in some history book somewhere that explains like the deep connection between the islands and then like New Jersey and New York, because I don't know, it's like one of those things that it's just like, why are people moving there? Or like Abishas in Washington D.C. There's like hella Ethiopians in Washington D.C. It's like, why? It's like how did they end up there?
I feel like it has to do with just the geographical proximity. That's like my best guess. Like, coming from the Caribbean, it's probably really daunting to be like, oh, I'm going to go to California, or I'm going to go to Nevada, or even like Texas. Like, but Florida's right there, New Jersey and New York are right there, and New York is obviously one of the most popular states within the United States. So I think they call America the land of opportunity, and New York City is so vast and there's so much going on that I think when you decide I'm gonna move to the United States, New York is just such a tempting place. So that's my best guess, is just the geographical proximity, and then like the popularity of New York. And like New Jersey's right there. New York is very expensive to live in, and Jersey has its expensive places too. So
as well, right? But it's an easy place to transition to if you're tired of New York City, or if you just want to get close to that area for sure. So I wanted to ask you, do you know the history behind why you were named Armon, or no?
I do actually, yeah.
Tell us.
So there was a player on the Knicks by the name of Armon Gilliam, and my dad is a Knicks fan, and so my mom would naturally be watching Knicks games with him, and so my mom took a liking to the name Armon. And then the Hebrew definition of the name, there's two different ones that I've discovered. One is chestnut, and I don't tell people that, but the other definition is castle, or strong tower, and that's really powerful for me. Like I consider myself a strong individual physically. I work out, I played sports my whole life, so I've always been pretty fit, aside from when I went to college and lost my my discipline. And I think that I've always been a really mentally strong person, and I've grown even mentally stronger as I've gotten older. Everyone has their insecurities, everyone has things that they worry about, and like I definitely am an emotional person, and I embrace that. I embrace my vulnerability. But I think that I'm very resilient, and castles are resilient. Castles were built to protect the people on the inside, whether it's, the princess or the king or whatever. And so, that's the history of my name. I love my name. There was a period in high school where I wanted to switch my first name Armon and my middle name David, because people would mispronounce Armon so often, call me Armin, call me Alman. They would add a D at the end, like just a lot of different shit. I'm like, it's not that hard. It's the word arm, the word on put together, but people would always mispronounce it.
Find a way. People always find a way.
Yeah,
That's
so
one thing you figure out growing up is like people will always find a way to butcher your name. Like,
yeah.
and I was like, when you first see my name, I could see how it could be challenging just because it's not a regular name that you see all the time. But it's like
Hmm.
as soon in terms of like trying to pronounce it, there's really only two ways. It's like Colis or Collis. Like I don't see how you can come up with any other way. But
Hmm.
Colin, Carlos, Colisius, like people, teachers. I mean, obviously, mostly teachers, but like just coming up with the crazy shit. I'm like, bro. First off, Carlos is spelled with totally different letters.
Yeah.
Totally different letters. Colin requires an N, and there's no N in my
Hmm.
letter in my name. I used to get frustrated, but I would just be like, "Yeah, you can just call me Mr. Stutzer," and they're like, "Well," because I was like, "You can just call me by my last name if you're gonna butcher
Hmm.
an easy first name." But so you mentioned you have an older brother. What was your relationship like with Andre growing up, and how has that like developed and advanced throughout your life?
Oh man, it was we did not like each other for a lot of our life. We're very different people. I'm a lot more creative, and he's a lot more organized, a lot more by the book, a lot more structured than me. So he would always like to keep the room super clean, and I like to keep the room, what I call it, organized chaos, where it might not look the best, but I know where everything is.
Right.
And we actually had to share a room up until he left to college. And so as, like, young kids, it's not as bad because we're smaller. We don't necessarily value that, like, individuality or having our own space. But as he got to high school and I got to middle school, and he would want to have friends over, or he would want to talk to girls on the phone or do different things, and I would be in there either playing video games or just doing random stuff. We definitely clashed a lot. And I think the age difference as well played a big part. He's 4 years older, so he experienced things a lot earlier than I did, obviously. And I think, and we're both strong personalities. We're both very confident in ourselves, and we're very competitive. We played the same sports growing up. He won like 3 championships in Pop Warner football. I'd never won a championship, and so he would always hold that over my head. But I had a lot more individual accolades than him. Like I was an All-Star game MVP in basketball, and just a couple other things I can't remember right now because it's so long ago. But we were very competitive. It was a very contentious relationship. But as they say so often, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think the first time that I would ever say that I was willing to admit that I missed him, he went to Syracuse Summer College the summer of 2008, I believe, 2008. And so he was away for 6 weeks, and so I had the room to myself. And I kind of realized, I was like, oh man, like, we argue all the time, but I kind of miss that. It's too quiet. Like, I'm
Right.
I'm too on my own. Like, I enjoy being on my own. Like, I definitely value that now. But back then, during the summer, because I didn't have the freedom, I wasn't able to drive, obviously, so I wasn't out. I was really just in the house playing video games or at baseball practice. Or I think I might have been working that summer, or was involved in some kind of summer program. But that was the first time I was really willing and able to say that I missed him. And then when he fully went off to college, because he ended up going to Syracuse for 4 years, that was when we got closer. Like, we would actually text each other and check in, like, "Yo, how you doing?" And like, "Yo, I miss you, bro. Like, I'll see you, when you come home for the holidays," and stuff like that. And now that I'm 25, he's 29. He's living in DC now. He's engaged, and we're a lot more mature. We have a really good relationship. Like, I could definitely consider him one of my best friends. And he's a lot more supportive now. He's a lot more understanding. And I think in a weird way, he wanted me to prove myself and prove that I'm capable of doing what I do now, because I'm taking a path that no one in my family has taken. He went he kind of works in finance, sort of. My dad works computers. My mom she's a doctor now, actually. So yeah. Shout out to her. But me, I'm the one who's pursuing a creative path where there's not as much certainty. There's really no one way to do what I'm doing. And with that lack of knowledge comes a lot of failures, a lot of missteps. And so I think they just wanted me to prove, all of them, not just my brother. I think they wanted me to prove that I'm capable of doing it. And once I felt like I did that and they felt like I did that, they had a lot more confidence in me. So yeah, he's really supportive. I mean, we still go at it here and there, but I'm really proud of him. I really look up to him in a lot of ways, and you can definitely say that I love that guy, even though he's an asshole.
Hey, I feel like that's the goal of sibling relationships, though. Like you're always gonna go through those struggles, like growing up, and you're always gonna butt heads, like always, just because humans butt heads. Like we butt heads with our best friends that we have only known for 5 years. We butt heads
Oh
with
yeah,
our wives. We butt heads with our coworkers. Like that's just natural.
yeah,
So I think like as we get older, and especially as younger siblings, we mature. I'm the youngest of 8 children, so
wow,
especially as as young children, when we mature, that's when we're able to develop like true long lasting friendships with our siblings, because we can actually identify experiences that they were going through that we didn't understand at the time because we were too young, or
yeah,
experiences that we're going through now that they've already gone through. So I always
yeah.
appreciate hearing those stories. If you could give one significant thing you've learned from both your mom, your dad, and your brother, what would that be? It can be a life thing, it can be a business thing, it can be a relationship thing. What's one significant thing you've learned from each of them?
Yeah, I would say with my brother, really just the importance of hard work and staying focused. I think him growing up, he was a pretty boy, played a lot of sports, got a lot of girls, and throughout high school, that was his focus. And so he wasn't the best student. Like I'm definitely the smarter brother, but he's more disciplined, and he works harder. And then there was a period of time where when he was in high school and I was in middle school, he was getting better grades than me. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. Like, you've never gotten better grades than me. Like, I don't like this. And I think, a flip switched in his head where he realized, I'm about to go off to college soon. I need to do the best I can do now so I can get into the schools I want to get into. And, he ended up going to Syracuse, which were where he wanted to go. And then he successfully transferred into the business school there, or the finance, well, whatever the school is. But he was able to transfer into the major that he really wanted to do, and he graduated, and he accomplished a lot on campus. So he's really taught me to focus and to work hard. My mom, so many lessons. I think with her, it's accepting failure and also not being too concerned about what other people think. She's incredible. Like, I tell everyone, she's a super mom, and she handles a lot of different things. And as parents, you don't really get to practice. Like, you have your first kid, and it's like, oh, like shit just got real. Like, I need to be on point. And so she always calls my older brother like the experiment, and then everything she learned with him and the mistakes she made, she applied them to me. And so she was a lot harder on me growing up. And like I would see what he was able to do, because again, he was 4 years older, so he was able to go to the mall with his friends by himself or take the bus plays and stuff. And I wanted that as a younger kid. And she knew that she had to be a bit more strict and like tougher on me to kind of make sure like I stayed focused so I could, do better than my brother, because I always wanted to do better than him. And she knew that. And there was a period of time where I was dealing with some personal stuff. I wasn't doing my best in school. And like, she sat me down and told me her story, how, she originally wanted to go into pediatrics. And, she like messed up along the way, and then she transitioned into going into nursing. And she's been a school nurse for the last 20 something years, and she loves that. And then, as I said, she got her doctorate from Teachers College at Columbia. She also got her master's from Montclair State in New Jersey. But she's used those failures as lessons. She's never, like, I've never seen her give up. I've never seen her quit on anything. She's just kind of taken things in stride. And being the oldest of 7 siblings, naturally siblings are a bit, they don't always want to listen to the oldest sibling. And so like, she's been in situations where she's been in the minority. She thinks they should do one thing, and like everyone else is like, no, like we should do it this way. And she's like she's been really affected by that. She too is a very sensitive, emotional person, but you know, she always stays strong through it all. She always keeps her poker face on, and you know, she does what she has to do for us. And that's something that I really admire. I think with my dad, he is a very smart, very charismatic person, but he doesn't show it. He very much so keeps to himself. Like, you know, he proudly tells people like, I don't have friends, I don't like people. And it's so funny because like people meet him and they really like him. Like he has a really great personality, but you know, he really keeps to himself. And you know, I think that's something I got from him, was being so social and so charismatic, and you know, being able to get along with anyone. But I think at times I can be a bit too open and too giving, and sometimes it's to my detriment. And so I've, you know, and there have been times where I've been like, yo, like he's so selfish, he's so to himself, like people enjoy you, like, you know, like you can be more open. But sometimes, you know, you really got to put yourself first and take those moments for yourself, and really just be right with yourself before you're giving yourself to other people. And so while I don't think I've closed myself up to the extent that he has, it is something that I've tried to implement a lot more in my life, because you know, you're of no use to anyone if you're not right with yourself, like I said. And that's something that I'm really emphasizing at this stage in my life at 25. So, and there's plenty other lessons, but I think those are the main three that I got from the three of them respectively. You're on mute.
I love that. I think that it's really important for individuals to really reflect on lessons they've learned from their family, because regardless if the relationships have been healthy or unhealthy, like, or have been healthy at sometimes and then unhealthy at sometimes, there's always something you can learn from to apply to your life, and to just be grateful for. You know, I think oftentimes we feel like we can't be grateful for negative experiences, but no experience is negative in case you just, you know, totally take nothing from it. In that
Yeah.
case, then there's only the only option is for it to be negative. So,
Right.
you know, I think it's really important for us to reflect on that. So I always try to ask that question. I find it interesting to hear the insights from different people and different relationships people have held with their parents and family. Um, so we've talked about how you were a good student, and that brought you to the point where you attended what, you know, some may look at and some may not look at. I look at as a historic and top tier school, Cornell University. So can you talk about why you decided to go there, and what you studied there, and just your experience overall during your 4 to 5 years there?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories to tell. Through my brother going to Syracuse, I naturally spent a lot of time on that campus. I also went to the summer college program. I would visit him. I got really cool with his frat brothers up there, and I had a lot of friends who were older than me at the summer college I went to that ended up going there too. So it seemed like the path for me. It was like, yo, like it's right there. Like I got my fees waived to apply there. They had the best communication school in the country. And around summer 2012, after I attended the summer college at University of Maryland, I transitioned from wanting to be a lawyer to wanting to work in communications and be a sports broadcaster at ESPN. So it seemed like Syracuse was it for me. I was prepared at one point to apply their early decision, but my mom, you know, she told me growing up, like she was like, I want you to do better than I did. She got rejected from Cornell when she applied there, you know, as she was getting ready to go to college. And she was like, so you're going to apply to Cornell and you're going to get in. I was like, all right. I mean, I don't really think I want to go Ivy League, but hey, I'll go for it. And so she made me visit there in the fall of my senior year. I actually went up there with one of my friends who attended the same high school as me, and we went and we loved it. We absolutely fell in love. Like Cornell is beautiful in the fall. Um, Everyone there was so cool, and I think, you know, I just had these preconceived notions of an Ivy League school. I assumed everyone was super nerdy, that they didn't have fun, they didn't party, they like people wouldn't be like me, and I also didn't see a lot of people who looked like me. So that was something concerning. But fortunately, because of the situations my parents put us in growing up, I always had a very diverse friend group: white friends, Korean friends, Hispanic friends, like just a bunch of different people. And I knew how to get along with a lot of different people. And I've just always had the utmost confidence in myself that I can succeed in any type of environment. So upon visiting Cornell and falling in love with it, I was like, well, I can't apply to Syracuse early decision because if I get in, I have to go there. And like, I really like Cornell. So I applied to Cornell, and I realized I would have to wait till March or April to hear from both Cornell and Syracuse. And senior year, I took an AP US history class, and so every year the freshman history class, the AP US history class, and then one more class went to Philly for a trip to Philly to walk around and see different monuments and exhibits and stuff. So I was in Philly. I'd actually just had a call that day to interview for this like summer internship program, and it went horrible. It was a bad interview. I wasn't prepared for it at all. So I was like, oh man, like I was kind of bummed. So of course, in Philly, I went to go get a Philly cheesesteak. So I'm sitting there eating it, and then I get an email from Cornell. And this is the day that I was supposed to hear from Syracuse. Like Syracuse was supposed to send their decisions this day. I think it was March 5th, 2013. So I'm checking my email every hour, like, yo, where's Syracuse? Well, what they gonna say? What they gonna say? So then I get an email from Cornell, and they invited me to come up for they were hosting for like Black students, Black prospective students, and Native American prospective students and Hispanic prospective students, and they were like, yeah, so we're inviting you to come, stay on campus for a couple of days and check it out. And then like in the next paragraph, like it was like very low key. They're like, you're getting this invite because you're going to be admitted to the class of 2013. And I was like, wait, class 2017. I was like, what? Like, how do you just say this so casually? Like, why is that not the big subject line on the email? So I see it and I just go crazy. And actually my friend who I visited Cornell with, he heard that he got in like February. So he knew a month prior to me that he was in. So everyone was super excited for him. And I was just waiting to hear back. And I was genuinely afraid that I wouldn't get in. And like, I realized how interested I was in the school by how scared I was that I wouldn't get in. So I saw the email. I was like, yo, I got in. And like everyone heard and they like clapped for me. And it was crazy, man. Like it's one of the proudest moments of my life because I accomplished something that I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to accomplish. So yeah, I heard from them. And then like a couple weeks later, Syracuse actually waitlisted me. So I was like, all right, well, I guess the decision's kind of made. Like I'm just going to go to Cornell. And then I think a couple weeks after that, Syracuse ended up accepting me, but their financial aid package just didn't match up to Cornell's. And my parents could tell how excited I was about it. And I was talking to a couple people that I knew who went there, and they were super excited for me. And it everything just kind of lined up. So yeah, man, ended up going to Cornell, majored in communication. My goal actually was originally I wanted to walk on to the baseball team, and then I kind of transitioned to wanting to walk onto the football team. Neither of those happened. I ended up playing flag football though, and that was fun. And then I played club rugby for a semester, which was really fun as well. But my goal going there was to be super involved, and playing a college sport makes it very difficult to be involved in other things. I've always, like I said, I was involved in the church. I would do community service. I was involved in music. I played 4 instruments when I was young, like not like long term. I played them like 1 year each, but I've always just done a lot of things. So going to Cornell, I was like, yeah, I've got to continue this. Like I want to leave my mark on this campus. So I ended up joining this like freestyle rap group for a little bit. Like I said, I played club rugby. I joined this group called Swag, which is like, I've friendships there that last to this day. And Swag stood for Scholars Working Ambitiously to Graduate. It was a Black mentorship group. And so I attended the first event, and they had this panel of all these Black students, juniors and seniors, who were like huge movers and shakers on campus. Like, they were part of the student assembly, or they were president of this, or treasurer of this, or they were part of a frat, or they played sports. And it was just so inspiring to see Black men, men that look like me, doing some of the things that I was interested in. So I think joining Swag was a launch pad for me to meet a lot of my who are now my brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which I joined in the fall of 2014. And that opened doors for me to just really take over campus. Like from there, I became the vice president of of the Greek Council. I joined this group called Cayuga's Watchers, which was it was a group that tried to maintain the safety of different Greek events. Like that there would be, Greek events with alcohol there. And certain frats would, like, if they saw like a big security guard there who said security on his shirt, like that they would kind of be more cautious. But Cayuga's Watchers would put students there who were dressed normally, who looked like they were just fitting in. And so like certain frats wouldn't realize that there was security there because they didn't look like security. So I was part of that group. I was one of the liaisons for that group. I did a lot on Cornell's campus. It's kind of hard to remember everything that I did, but I can truly say that I got a lot. I put a lot into it, and I got a lot out of it. I really feel like I found who I was to an extent. I think I'm still learning who I am, and I'm constantly going to relearn who I am. But Cornell really did a lot for me. Like, I don't have any regrets about going there. As much as I do love Syracuse, like, it's funny because Syracuse is like an hour away from Cornell. So I ended up spending a good amount of time on Syracuse's campus, hanging out with the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha there. And I just made a lot of friends there. And, because I would visit my brother there, people I met who were going there after he graduated, I had relationships with them. So, I was still able to spend a lot of time there, but Cornell really did so much for me. Like, I'm so thankful for the opportunity. I'm so thankful that my parents let me go, even if it was like, even if we got a really good financial aid package, they still had to pay a good amount of money there. And there was a period of time where I was messing up in school, so I had to take some time off, and I actually graduated in 4.5 years, not 4 years. But I really think that extra semester helped me to focus, be more disciplined. And yeah, man, it's an amazing experience. Like, and I'm still so close to so many people there. I spent a lot of time with a lot of people that I was close to there, and I've built friendships post grad that I didn't expect to have while I was attending the school. So it was amazing. Like, and it definitely had its flaws. Like, being upstate New York with nothing really around you, like, and it being so cold up there. Like, it was winter from November to April. So it was very tough, but
Crucial.
yeah. But it was really great, man. Like, that's where I decided that, because like I said, I wanted to do sports broadcasting, and I applied to internships at ESPN, didn't get them. And then I ended up getting an internship with my cousin who worked at a blog called musictimes.com. And that was really the start of, all right, I'm going to be a music journalist. And, from there, I, did a bunch of other things. And yeah, man, so I really feel like I found my passion there. I feel like I found some of the seeds of what would eventually be what I deem my purpose. And it just really helped shape me as a man to an extent.
And would you say it's safe to say that if you weren't as involved as you were, that it may not have been as necessary of an experience? I feel like this is also me portraying my own thoughts, by the way. So I feel like students who decide to go to university, but especially students who get the opportunity to go to like some really good schools that are going to have people who end up being some pretty big movers and shakers in society, especially in the States, and who are just, smart, hardworking, kids. I mean, of course, they're still kids, so we still wild out and everything, but at the end of the day, still smart and relatively disciplined people. But they go to the school, they get into a university, and then they keep to themselves. They just go to their class, do their work, go back to their dorm, go to class, do their work, and they graduate with flying colors, which is good. I guess that is the point of it. But like, would you say that, at least in maybe your field, would you have, like, in communications, do you think that what would you think was more helpful, the degree or the people and the experiences that you got to go through, in your opinion?
I would definitely say the people and experiences easily. I learned a lot in my communications courses that I think I apply to what I do currently, but I don't necessarily feel like my degree has helped me get any further in music journalism and, multimedia journalism. Like, it's been my hard work, it's been my networking, and I developed that foundation at Cornell. Because I'm just way too social to be the go to class, go back to my room, watch Netflix alone, not talk to anybody. Like that wasn't me. And I also had a really social roommate my freshman year who ended up rushing for a different frat. But just through him, I met so many people. And it's funny, he and I, when we decided to be roommates, we were like, yo, we're going to be two of the most known guys on campus. And that was something that we said before we even stepped foot on campus. I mean, I visited campus. He never visited. So he just got in and chose to go without even actually visiting. But me, you know, since I got there and I knew some people there, like I kind of saw the landscape and I was like, yeah, I can easily take this shit over. And so that was my goal. And I feel like I accomplished that. I'm thankful for my degree. I'm thankful for the people I connected with in the communications major and in the communications program and all that. But I think college, you know, if you limit college to the degree, then you're not really getting anything out of it. Like, especially walking Cornell's campus. Like there was one point where like this like prince from like Saudi Arabia's daughter was going to our school, and she was like living in the hotel on campus, which is a very expensive hotel. Like it is not cheap. And she was like living there for a semester. And, you know, there are people now who have like startups that are valued at millions of dollars and are playing professional sports. It's like, so there's so much opportunity. There were so many people to meet. And I would have really done myself a disservice if I just only focused on school. And I definitely could have focused on school more because my GPA ended up not being that great. But I really gained a lot in terms of relationship building, opening myself up, taking risks, taking chances, and putting myself out there.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, first off, congratulations on that achievement of graduating. I know that couldn't
Thank
be
you.
easy. You know, those schools, all schools are hard, but definitely, you know, it's well known that, you know, at certain schools the coursework tends to be a little bit more difficult, and you made it happen, and
Thank you.
you made the best of your experience. So congratulations.
Thank you, man.
So you graduate college in what year?
2017.
2017. Okay. So what is your first thought when you graduate? Like, it's been 2 months after graduation. Like, what is your plan? What's your game plan?
Well, first it's like, damn, I made it. Like there was a time where I thought I might not finish there. I thought I might have to finish somewhere else. So patting myself on the back for making it. But I graduated and I didn't have a job. And a lot of my friends who, you know, graduated on time, I saw what they were doing. And, you know, I really try not to compare myself, but back then I was a lot more insecure and I was looking left and right at what people were doing. So I was like, I need to find a dope job too. Like I want to be in New York City, making a lot of money, going to happy hours, going to networking events, doing all these things that my friends are doing. So I really felt a lot of pressure to find a job, but I wanted the job to be something I was passionate about. And I knew that was music. But finding music jobs is not easy. You know, they don't just hire staff writers just you have to prove yourself through your portfolio and through work that you do at smaller publications. And me, I've always aimed high. I've always thought very highly of myself. And so I was applying to places like Complex and Billboard and Vibe and all that, and rejection after rejection. I was like, damn, am I not a good writer? Am I not a good enough writer? I was like, nah, that can't be it. Like, I just don't have enough experience. But it was getting to the point where I was like, all right, you know, my parents didn't expect me to move back home. I don't want to be living home for too long. So I took the first job that was offered to me, and that was a job in recruitment. And I didn't know anything about recruitment. It was recruitment for specifically IT jobs. I didn't know anything about IT. My dad worked in IT, but I still like I never really spent that much time talking to him about his job. Like it seemed cool, you know, he was able to make ends meet, pay the bills and all that. So it was like cool, but that's not what I want to do. But you know, hearing, you know, the salary I was going to get, it was the most money that I would have ever had in my life. And you know, I kind of just saw the dollar signs and not, you know, the the how it didn't align with my purpose. And I tried to convince myself that it would be temporary. So, you know, I went and I honestly hated it within the first like 2 weeks. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to last here. But I tried to make the most of it. And soon I realized that it just wasn't a situation that I could force myself to, you know, try to force passion on something that I'm not passionate about. So I really didn't last there long, but I'm definitely thankful for that opportunity. I'm thankful for that quote unquote failure, which it's not a failure. You know, a failure is if you mess up and you don't learn anything from it. And I definitely learned that I just can't put myself in positions where I don't enjoy what I'm doing. I'm not passionate about what I'm doing. Um, so yeah, man, there was definitely a lot of pressure on me 2 months after graduation. And I think I let that pressure get to me, and I just jumped on the first opportunity rather than taking my time and trusting, you know, the plan that God had for me, and just trusting myself and trusting that I would get an opportunity that, you know, I really wanted. But I don't necessarily regret it. I kind of wish that I would stayed a bit longer so I could have saved up a bit more money. But otherwise, it's like, cool, man. Like it one thing I've learned in life is it's good to have experiences like that, because you learn what you don't want and then you just never put yourself in that position again.
100%.
So yeah, I'm thankful for it, even if it might not have ended on the best terms.
Yeah. And so that last statement you stated there is a major fact. It's like, you know, there's some, first off, something to learn in every experience. And for you, it was like, okay, I don't want to do that. I'm never going to put myself in that position again.
Yeah.
But that's important. You know, sometimes people go into 1,000 of those situations and never come out learning, and
Yeah.
never come out reflecting, and then they just go back into it again. They're like, why am I always sad and hating my job and depressed? I'm like, dude, because you've done the same job 12 different times at 12 different companies. Like, you haven't learned like
Yeah.
what that this isn't the path that you want to go. You got to find something else. So
Yeah.
so when's your very first like paid freelance or job, like, or like which is still freelance, but anyways, when's your first paid gig when it comes to writing? Well, and tell me how you felt when that happened.
Yeah, so I came in July of 2018, so that was a month after I left the recruitment job. I only worked the recruitment job from February 2018 to June 2018, so like 4 months. So I left and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go full time into writing. I'm gonna, because I would wake up at 6, commute to the city, get to work by like 8:30, be at work till like 6, commute back home, get home at 8, eat dinner, watch a show, maybe FaceTime the person I was dating at the time, go to sleep and do it all again. And I didn't have much time to write. And I really miss writing. You know, writing is my therapy. Writing keeps me balanced, and music is my therapy as well. So being able to combine two things that I love doing, it always helped me, you know, throughout college. So yeah, my first paid writing opportunity came in July. I had a friend who was freelancing for Revolt, and I saw he was putting articles out for them, and they were really dope. And I was like, "Yo, man, like, you know," I was straight up. I was like, "I'm trying to get paid for my writing. So how do I go about that?" And he set me up with the editor at the time, who was Danielle Cheeseman, I think her name is. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but so I connected with her, sent her a few pitch ideas, and she liked one. And the idea that I had, it was basically talking about the streaming era and how to be a superstar, and how, you know, certain artists who have established themselves as superstars can take more risks, because that was the summer when Kanye West and Good Music put out all those albums that were 7 songs long. Drake put out Scorpion, that was 25 songs long. Lil Yachty in like 2017 put out Teenage Fever, which was pretty was it called Teenage Fever? Teenage Emotions. So yeah, I was basically just trying to give some perspective on how streaming has helped and kind of hurt certain artists, because everyone wants to put out this big album just so it can stream a lot and it can do a lot of numbers. But if you haven't established that trust with your fan base, they might not be so willing to listen to 21 songs from you, especially if you're not as that great. Like I think Lil Yachty's talented. A lot of people don't like him. I think Lil Yachty's really talented. I don't think he should have put out an album that long so early into his career. Drake, on the other hand, who's been doing this for over a decade at this point, and he was very inspired by Notorious B.I.G.'s Life After Death, and I'm sure he drew some inspiration from Jay-Z putting out Blueprint 2, which was a double disc. You know, he put out Scorpion as a double disc, and it's now like 5 times platinum. You know, it had some really big singles, and you know, it wasn't as critically acclaimed, but commercially it was super successful. And I was like, yeah, Drake has from his Degrassi days to So Far Gone to, you know, Thank Me Later, Take Care, and everything he put out after. He's proven like I can make really good music. People trust me. So I can put out a 25 song album and most of the world is really going to fuck with it, you know, even if it's super long. Like, you know, it's an hour and a half of music, which is definitely a lot. Like, especially these days, streaming has really conditioned us to complain about an album running for a long time. And it could be 25 songs that are 1 minute each, but people just look at, you know, how many songs there are and they're like, oh my God, rather than considering the time in which the album lasts. Because Ty Dolla $ign put out a 25 song album just this past fall, but it was only like 1 hour long because a lot of his songs were shorter and he had like more interludes and stuff. So yeah, I basically wrote about, you know, like you have to establish yourself before you can take those creative risks, like putting out a long album or doing a surprise album or something like that. And she liked it and it went out and I got paid for it. And that was an incredible feeling though. Like, you know, there's a lot of people who say there's no money in music. Like everyone looks at the artist and sees how successful they are. And they're like, you know, if you want to make money in music, you got to be an artist. And the artists don't really make that much either. Like you don't make money just from selling your music. You have to tour it. You got to do merch. You got to do appearances and stuff like that. So as someone who accepted I wouldn't be a rapper or a singer, you know, making money in journalism just didn't feel all that realistic. So having that opportunity to actually make money on the writing that I was doing was like, oh wow, like this is really something I can do. And this big platform trusts my ability. So yeah, that was dope. And I ended up putting out one more article for them on how I wanted to see more collaborative albums from R&B artists. Cause like 2017, 2018 was when all these rappers were doing collab albums. You had Lil Baby and Gunna, you had Dave East and Styles P, you had Young Thug and Future the year before, you had 21 Savage, Metro Boomin and Offset the year before, you had just a bunch of different collaborative albums. And it was like, yo, R&B artists should do this too. It would be really cool to hear Division and Her do an album. It would be cool to see Khalid and like someone do an album. So yeah, man, it was an incredible feeling. I'm very thankful to Revolt for trusting me and putting that piece out. And yeah, it just kind of gave me that fuel to keep writing and keep striving.
I love it. I love it. And if you had, let's say, if you had to give 2 tips to young writers coming up right now on, you know, finding a way to monetize their work, what would be like your 2 tips of how they should go about it? Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just from your experience, what do you think are 2 ways somebody can go about getting a better chance at monetizing their work?
Yeah. So one, don't chase it. Don't write just to make money. Write because you love it. It's so easy to tell when someone is passionate about their writing. I don't write about anything I'm not passionate about, whether I'm getting paid for it or not. There's nothing I put out that doesn't come from a genuine inspiration and passion. And you know, the money's not going to come immediately. So you have to build up your portfolio. That means writing for some smaller blogs. That means starting your own blog. That means putting work on Medium and just, you know, using social media to network. So one, don't chase the money, you know, write from a genuine place. And 2, understand that, you know, if you really do want to make money off of it, it's not going to come immediately. You kind of have to prove yourself. And that means creating bylines for yourself or getting bylines elsewhere. And then when you approach these big publications that have the backing of all these sponsors, showing them what you've done, and, you know, hoping that they're impressed by it and they give you an opportunity. And, you know, that all comes from being a good writer. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, write well. Don't just be passionate about it. You like, there are certain guidelines you have to follow. You have to be technically sound as well as, you know, just have a cool voice that people want to read and, you know, people can kind of relate to. But yeah, man, like the passion and the hard work is going to get you there. It might take you some time, but it's going to get you there. So don't chase it.
I love that. I love that. So if you were to think of, what number do I want to choose? Let me just choose the number I've been going with. If you were to think of 2 articles, write-ups that you've written specifically about music, doesn't have to be it could be for Medium, for yourself, for your own blog. Maybe it was just a Twitter thread, whatever it might have been. what are two write-ups that you've, or I don't know if that's the correct verbiage, but anyways, you get what I'm trying to say. Two articles you've written about hip hop that you really enjoyed personally, that you really like. It's one of your favorite things that you've written.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate you asking whether it's write up or not, because actually a lot of writers hate the term write up because it kind of minimizes the work that we do. Like, you know, they're articles, they're editorial pieces. So, you know, thank you for being conscious of that. Two pieces that I really love. 2020 was a big writing year for me. So I think the first one would be I wrote a piece on Brent Faiyaz's most recent EP. It's actually an EP. I thought it was an album, but it was actually an EP called Fuck the World. And the album came out February 7th, 2020, I believe. I put out my review of it in June. I think I put it out like June 13th. And that was around the time during the pandemic when all the riots were going on. The world was literally burning, like buildings were burning, and Black people had just had enough of, you know, being mistreated. And that really, you know, affected me personally. I was in a very strange emotional place that I'd never really been in. You know, one, just being confined to my home and seeing all this stuff happening and people putting themselves at risk by protesting. It was like, the world is crazy. Like, the world is fucked. And you know, when Brent's album originally came out, I wanted to review it just because there were so many themes that really related to me at the time. I was going through a breakup, and you know, he was just talking about how he handled women and how he was, you know, very much about himself, and he was just very nonchalant towards a lot of shit. And it was something that I kind of related to. But there was one time I was listening to it in June, and you know, with all the riots and, you know, the world in mind, and you know, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, I was just listening to it. I was like, yeah, Brent is saying a lot of toxic relationship stuff, but a lot of these themes really extend beyond himself. Like, a lot of these can relate to the relations between Black and white people, like historically and now. And I just had this epiphany. I was like, nah, I have to write about this. I was like, yo, I wonder if anyone else feels this way about this, or am I just taking a shot in the dark? So I wrote the article, put it out. And I think just the place that everyone was at, you know, specifically Black people, like we all needed some catharsis at that time, whether it was music, whether it was therapy, whether it was whatever. I think we all needed it. And so, you know, I put the piece out, and it like organically went really crazy. Like, a lot of people really, really enjoyed it. And it's obviously a great feeling that, you know, people like your writing. But for me, it was really therapeutic because I was able to say a lot of things in that article that I'd never said out loud to maybe my white counterparts, even some of my white friends who I felt like weren't as sympathetic towards what was going on in the world. So, you know, I kind of just left it all on the paper. And eventually Brent saw the article himself, quote tweeted it, gave me like 3 prayer hand emojis. And I was like, wow, like, you know, I really thought I was taking a shot in the dark. I really thought I was taking just a weird angle towards this album, but Brent related to it. He liked it, and a lot of different people liked it. So that's one that, you know, whenever I'm lacking confidence in my writing, I go back to it. I'm like, yo, you did that, so you're capable of doing anything. And I think another article that I really love, I wrote an article on Bryson Tiller back in October. Bryson Tiller is finding his new pace. You know, I feel like, you know, he came into the game really white hot with Trap Soul and the big features he was doing. And then his sophomore album, a lot of people didn't like it, and they were just really giving him a hard time. It felt like people were quick to write him off. And that's kind of the era of music we're in now, where people move on from people very fast. And throughout 2018 to 2019, you know, he admitted he was depressed when he put out his sophomore album, True to Self, and he was putting out random singles and features here and there. And it just felt like he was really trying to find himself and find his new pace, because, you know, when you come into the game hot and you set a high standard, people expect that from you. And if you give them anything less than that, people are like, oh, you fell off, or you suck, or this and that. So it just really felt like he was trying to find his new pace. And that was something I related to, because like I said, 2020 was the best year of my career writing wise. I was able to talk to Pusha T and put out a piece on him I wrote a piece on Drake Dark Lane demo tapes, which went really crazy. Like I did a lot of big things, but I kind of burnt out at a certain point. There was a period where I was lacking motivation. I was like, yo, I just feel like I can't write anymore. And so the Bryson piece was my first article in maybe a few months. And I really felt like I related to him. And it made me think of when I was running track in high school, freshman year. My very first track meet, I ran the 400, to 2 laps around the track. And because I wasn't experienced, the race started and I just sprinted. I just got out and I was like, yo, I'm in first place. I'm about to win this. And then I burnt out and I ended up coming in last. And then, my teammates and my coach had to talk to me. They're like, yo, you have to pace yourself, but like you're going to find your pace eventually. And that story for myself, it really felt like Bryson was doing the same thing. And, with me in track, I eventually found the race I was good at, which was the 200, 1 lap. I just was able to sprint around. I ended up getting a medal in that. And it felt like Bryson, especially with, him having his kid and, his relationship and all that, like, he was just living his life and trying to reestablish himself. And so I put that piece out in October. That one organically did pretty well. And one thing I do when I put out an article I'm really proud of is I immediately try to go to the gym and like work out a lot so I can feel sore, just to like humble myself. Like, yeah, like you're a good writer, but don't get too high on yourself. Like you're still growing, you're still building. So I try to put myself in a position of weakness, for lack of a better term. And so I'm at the gym. I just finished up a set, pulled out my phone to like change a song. I was like, let me just check Twitter. I checked Twitter and the article went from like, maybe like 30 retweets, 50 likes to like hundreds and thousands. And I was like, what the hell? Like, how did this go so crazy? And then I realized Bryson himself retweeted it because I tagged him in it. I always tag artists and whenever I write about them, just on the off chance they see it. And because, there's these feelings towards the media that the media is very negative. So I try to let them know, like, I'm doing responsible coverage of you. And so he ended up retweeting it. He followed me back on Twitter. He responded to me like, yo, man, like, I really appreciate this. Thank you. I was like, nah, man, it's all love. And like, I'm excited for the album because that was around the time he announced that he was putting out the Trap Soul Deluxe that he put out back in the fall. And, he and I have had a couple conversations since then. He's a really, really cool dude. And yeah, that was another cathartic piece for me. It was funny. Well, one of my friends who I talked to about it, he was like, yo, yeah, like you wrote that about Bryson Tiller, but that was really about you. I was like, in a way, it was about me. I've been studying Bryson for the last 3 years, and I feel like, we do have some similarities. And I felt like, especially at this stage in our lives, they were almost parallel, even though he's got millions of dollars and millions of followers. So we're not at the same stage, but just mentally, I felt like we were at the same space. So one, it felt good to come back to writing because that was my comeback piece. And two, it felt good that, it kind of hit home for him as well. So yeah, I would say those two, but, I really try to not rest on my laurels. Like, it's 2021 now. So the 2020 victories don't matter. This is a completely new season. But when I am feeling lacking confidence, I do go back to those two, just to remind myself what I'm capable of. But I'm trying to take it higher now.
I love that. I love that, man. So I wanted to ask you, what do you, when it comes to your writing, when it comes to your career, how do you define what success looks like? How do you like know when there's a point where you're like, all right, I did it. Like I did it. Or do you think it's just a constant, chasing? But is there a moment for you that in your head is like the moment where you've like, I've done it?
I think there have been a few moments where I've felt like I've done it, but the type of person I am, I'm always looking ahead. So, I do sit in those triumphant moments and I celebrate them and I enjoy them and I feel really good about myself. And then, it's like, all right, it's tomorrow now. Like, what am I going to do now? I have to do better than what I did previously. But I think the feeling of success is internal. A lot of people define it as money or followers, having a verified check. And those are all things I want. I love Twitter. I can't wait till I'm verified on Twitter, but that doesn't mean anything. You can be verified and be struggling. You could be verified and be depressed. And so I'm all about the intrinsic motivation. I'm all about being solid internally. So my definition of success is being genuinely happy with myself, with what I'm doing, and with where I am. And even though, I'm very ambitious and I'm always looking to do more, if I'm able to sit and be like, I'm content. I'm content with what I'm doing. I'm content with myself. I'm content with the people that are around me. I'm content with the work I'm doing. That's success to me. If you're chasing any type of material stuff or fame, you're never going to be satisfied. That's a hunger that is never satiated. You're just going to keep going. And like I said, I'm the type of person who keeps going. Like, once I have $1 million, as Drake said in his Rap Radar interview back in December 2019, like, you get $1 million, then you're going to be hungry for 10 million. And you get 10 million, you're going to want 100 million. And I think that's good. That's how I'm going to be too. But I think as I've grown as a man and really valued my mental health, and constantly I'm talking to myself and just reminding myself how great I am, I've really let go of the need for attention, the need for recognition, the need for likes and retweets. And I definitely want money. Like, I would love to be in a better financial situation than I am right now, but I think you're successful if you're able to wake up and be happy with yourself. And happiness isn't like total, like you might not be 100% happy, you might be like 98% happy, and then that 2% is like, oh, but I could do this better, or I messed up there. But if you have more to feel blessed about than more to complain about, that's my definition of success.
Yeah, I think I love that first and foremost, but I also think that like people get confused with like billionaires. Some people really want to be billionaires, but I feel like a lot of billionaires or super rich people, it's not that they are greedy and desire the billions and billions of dollars, but it's just that they reach that point of content probably at 10 million liquid, right? They're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm content. I've done enough in my career where I'm happy. My children are safe. They live in a good area. They're getting good education. They're fed. Like, I'm content. Every day I wake up, I'm pretty content with my life. But just because you're content doesn't mean your hunger for doing more isn't there. Like, you could be like, all right, I want to build this business even more because I want to add this on to this business, or I want to write this piece. You might be at the point where you're content in writing, but then you like do one interview with somebody that just like, you just wanted to do it just because you desired to do it. You're like, man, I said I was going to interview this person before I die, and I want to. Like, I'm content, but I want to interview this person before I die. You interview them, the interview goes crazy. Now 20 opportunities come your way. You take a few of them, and it brings you up another 10 million. It doesn't mean you wanted $10 million. It's just that you desired to do something, and it brought certain opportunities. And I think that's like, a way of thinking that people need to distinguish. Like, where are you going to be content and happy with life? What do you need to fulfill your purpose? Like, what is that? And then, like, obviously, as humans, nobody wants to just sit on their ass every day. I promise you, nobody really wants to do that. Some people will do it for a long period of time, but that's mostly likely because they've lost sight of their purpose. That's most likely because they're struggling with some type of, mental health. Nobody that's just like chill, that's good, like is just feeling good, wants to just sit at home all day long. Everyone has different things that they want to do, different levels that they want to achieve. So, I could go on a big rant, but I love that. I love what you had to say there. So it's the end of your career, man. Like, not right now, but hypothetically, it's the end of your career. You've written, as many articles, as many editorials, as many movies, whatever lanes you want to go down. You've interviewed whoever you want to interview. Your podcast has gone up and done numbers, and you've been able to have dope conversations, done everything you've wanted to do. How do you want to be remembered by the people? How do you want to be remembered by your family, by your grandchildren, by your great grandchildren? How do you want to be? What do you want your legacy to be when you depart from this earth?
Man, I think it just comes down to, I'm a passionate ass dude, and I think everyone, if you talk to me long enough, you can feel that passion. Like, if you bring up music or wrestling or mental health, things that I've brought up so many times in this conversation, like, my passion just jumps out. And I have this quote in my Instagram bio. It's passion and purpose. I'm driven by my passion and my purpose. And I think that I found my purpose in life, which is to be a storyteller, to stand out, you know, to not just be part of the norm, but to create a different norm, to encourage other people that you can take the road less traveled by. And yeah, that it's not laid out. Like there's no perfect way to do it. You're going to stumble, you're going to fumble, but you know, as long as you get back up and you're driven by the right things, then, you know, you're doing it the right way. And like, you're going to be successful if you work hard. Like that's just what you might not be successful at what you originally planned to be successful at, but through this journey, you find other things that you care about. So I just want people to remember me for my passion. Everything I do that I genuinely care about comes from my passion. The things that I put the most time and energy into is a result of this intense passion within me, because I genuinely stay busy. I don't like being bored. Like I can't tell you the last time I felt bored, because I'm just always doing something. And it's not always something work related. Like it might just be laying in bed and watching old wrestling matches for hours, or hanging with my girlfriend, or hanging with my boys. But, you know, those are all things that I'm passionate about. I don't ever put myself in a position to do something that I don't like, or I'm never going to do that again. So I just want people to remember that, be encouraged by that, be inspired by that. And I also want people to strive to accomplish more than me. I want my kids to be better than me. I want my friends around me to, you know, do better than me, because that motivates me to then do better than them, and not in a competitive way, but like iron sharpens iron. It's funny, like the Bible verse I read this morning, Proverbs 27:17, it's literally iron sharpens iron. And I keep a lot of iron around me. My parents are my iron. My brother is my iron. My girlfriend is my iron. A lot of my friends are my iron, and they pushed me. That they believe in me, and they've, you know, helped me to not give up. And I don't think I'm ever gonna give up in life, because I'm just way too fucking passionate. Like it's like Drake's line from what song? It was a song on Scorpion. He's like, I swear I get so passionate, you do not know the half of it. And I really think, like, even in people seeing how passionate I am through social media or through conversation, they don't fully know. Like I care about so many things. And there are so many things that I want to improve, whether it's the journalism field, whether it's Black men's feelings towards therapy and mental health, whether it's the perception of wrestling, whether it's how men approach relationships with women and appreciating women. Like there's so much that I care about. And so, yeah, man, I'm going to keep saying it over and over, but my passion is what I think I'm going to be remembered for, and not what I want to be remembered for. I think it's what I'm going to be remembered for.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, I really appreciated this conversation, my brother. I feel like we got to know a lot about you. We got to hear the passion. We got to, you know, be introduced to, you know, some of the stuff you do. And before we head out today, I want to ask you to plug your podcast. And then I also want you to plug where people can find any of your past articles, editorials. I'm gonna work on that verbiage. I got you. but where they can find your work, and where they can follow you.
Yeah, so both my Twitter and my Instagram are my name, Armon Sadler, at ARMON SADLER. In my Twitter and my Instagram bio, you can find the @ for my podcast, Stay Busy with Armon Sadler. It's at Stay Busy Pod. I also have a link to my link tree. That's basically my portfolio of all my writing. So it has my Medium articles. It has the interview I did with Pusha T. It has some interviews people have done for me. It's got my wrestling podcast as well, and a lot of other content that I've done. So yeah, if you follow me on social media, you really basically get access to everything that I do and have done. And I think I'm a pretty good Twitter follow as well. I try to keep people entertained. So yeah, follow me at Armon Sadler. Follow the podcast at Stay Busy Pod. We drop every Monday, 9 a.m. on all platforms.
I love it. I love it. Consistency wins every time. Shout out to Armon Sadler for his passion, his consistency, his dedication to completing things even when they're tough. And we really just appreciate you coming on the show today. Hopefully the listeners enjoyed it as well. I'm sure they did. Also, TCT listeners, make sure you leave a 5-star review comment, and share this with a friend, as that is the only way we can grow. If you don't do that, we will not grow, and you're being selfish. With that being said, I love y'all. Thank you for coming on. Stay here though. When I end this episode, I got a few things to say, so 1 second. But yeah, man, the Culture Talks podcast. Thank y'all for tapping in. It's your boy CIZZY. Salud.